Hello, this is the Be Yourself, Be Heard podcast. I am Dr. Faisal Shaikh, consultant psychiatrist. This podcast is about exploring neurodivergence through the eyes of professionals and policymakers. So I'd like to welcome our guest in this episode, Jodie Smith. Jodie is a founder of Happy Doodles, a children's emotional well-being business. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining, Jodie.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. It's a new experience for me.
Pleased to have you. Pleased to have you on the podcast. So, Jodie, I'd like to start by getting the audience to learn a bit about yourself. So, who is Jodie? What's your background? What's your origin? And what shaped you growing up?
Yeah, so there's quite a lot to it. So I suppose in a roundabout way, Jodie is first and foremost a mother. She also is the founder of Happy Doodles, so art workshops for children's emotional well-being. And I also live with inattentive ADHD and bipolar. So kind of a bit well-versed in the neurodivergence life, I suppose. And yeah, I suppose growing up, something I always say is that I was always the colouring outside of the lines enthusiast. So as soon as I could hold a crayon, I never really put it down, which I think for adults is rare, like keeping that playfulness alive. And yeah, I think since then I've sort of just been very creative. I think that's what I've honed in on.
So creativity has been there from the very beginnings of yourself, I think, and playfulness.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about your values that have shaped you and made you the person that you've become, Jodie.
I think values-wise, there's quite a few, as in I've always been very sort of empathetic, compassionate, very hardworking. Once I've set my mind to something, I want to have done it yesterday, but that's not possible. So like with Happy Doodles, it came from sort of journaling earlier in the year. So thinking of, what the world needs more of, what I've done with my life and like past experiences, and then how to combine the two. I think they call it the creative sweet spot. But yeah, I think I've gone on a tangent, which is classic Jodie.
Oh no, I think I like that creative sweet spot you said. Yeah, that's a good term. I've not heard that before.
Yeah.
And I think just expanding on what you've been saying, Jodie. So you said that, and I think it's quite brave of you to talk about your, condition. You mentioned inattentive ADHD. So I was going to ask about your experience with neurodivergence. Or your views on neurodivergence, and you've already mentioned that. So can I get you to tell me a bit more about what was your journey with getting to that discovery of inattentive ADHD, and how did you battle through life with that condition?
Yeah. So, it was very literally last month I got the diagnosis of inattentive ADHD at 30. And before that, so it wasn't a straightforward line, I suppose. I also, with bipolar, it's much trickier, I guess, and it got missed for a long time. So
you've also been diagnosed with bipolar disorder?
Yeah, okay. So I got diagnosed with that during lockdown after the birth of my daughter on a mother and baby unit in Nottingham, so 2 hours away. And so, yeah, that was a journey on its own. But so I guess it took the forefront because it was quite a traumatic time. But before that, I always I've never felt like I've fitted in. Anywhere I went, I'd sort of float around really. But I was always, like I said, hardworking. So I found school tricky. I worked really, really, really hard. But I used to I'd got all of my GCSEs, so I guess from the school point of view, they wouldn't have seen it as an issue at school,
Mm.
but I had to teach myself after school. So I'd not take any information in at school because of how loud it was in the background. And yeah.
So I think, I mean, from what you're saying, it sounds as though you had those challenges from a very early age. I think the sensory sensitivities and the difficulty taking on board what was being taught at school. So, and you also mentioned your journey with bipolar disorder following the birth of your daughter. What's your daughter's name?
She's Edith.
Edith, and she
She's
must be
nearly-
5 years now.
Yeah, she's 5. Yeah, nearly 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think the lived experience can be very, very powerful sometimes, not just for the individual, but people who hear about the story, I think. Is there anything that has stuck with you from that time when you're in hospital or following that, when you reflect back on this?
I guess resilience and sharing the story, because I suppose not many people have heard of postpartum psychosis, or if they've heard of it, they might be like, oh, I don't want to touch on that one, but I don't really mind talking about stuff. But in terms of after, so when Edith was born, and then when I come out of the mother and baby unit, trying to get that bond and connection with her, because I would blame myself. I'd not feel good enough because of the experiences we went through at such a young age. We used creativity, and that was the thing that really helped us bond. And so from that was the seed of Happy Doodles. It sort of was born there, really.
So in essence, the experience of being in hospital and being diagnosed and supported and treated allowed you to find an area of strength in you, a better relationship, or maybe a strong relationship with Edith, but also the seed for your business that you're now leading on. I think in a way you've addressed the next question I was going to ask, which is about embracing difference. What are your views about embracing difference? Because, in what you've been saying, I'm picking up a theme here that you didn't quite fit in, or, so how what's been your experience of trying to fit in, and how do you feel we should embrace difference, especially when it comes to neurodivergence?
I think it's really important, and I think even now there's so much that could be improved, and embracing differences. I mean, trying to think of examples, but yeah, I just think it's vital. I think it's really important, and I guess like with Happy Doodles as well, I'm trying to build that village and build that community aspect and the connection, and make it accessible for everybody, not just a few. And I suppose in that I try to I have like a sensory area, so that's sort of a quieter zone, and if someone's sort of overstimulated or overwhelmed or wants extra support, I'll always make sure like I'll do one-on-one, or I just adjust it to each person. And I think that's how it should be with a lot of stuff. It's not just a blanket, everybody's the same, and what a boring world that would be.
And so I think the values that you've talked about, the creativity, playfulness, and now embracing difference, they're very much part of what you're doing in Happy Doodles. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And how do you see the journey of Happy Doodles going forward? What's the vision that you see, with Happy Doodles in the near future, in the distant future?
I've got lots of ideas and things that I'd love to do. So one of them is like carry on building that community aspect. So not only in person but online. So trying to raise awareness, or like build knowledge of how creativity is so vital for children's emotional well-being, but it's the one thing that keeps getting cut in schools. So raising awareness of that, making like, I suppose, content online for that as well. But also more workshops, trying to get more collaborations with schools, trying to get collaborations with healthcare settings as well. So, because it wouldn't be classed as art therapy because I'm not like a trained therapist, but it's
Absolutely,
more
yeah.
peer-to-peer support as someone that's been through a fair share of struggles, I suppose. And like, I suppose longer term plan, I'd love to franchise it. I'd love to go like across the country, but also offer it as like a support package. There's so much that I want to do with it, but I am just one person, so I have to rein it in sometimes.
But it's good to have a bold vision like you've got, and I think that I'm sure that gives you the motivation and the passion
Yeah,
to
definitely.
keep working at this business. So that's inspiring. Thank you for that, Jodie. I've also heard when I was being introduced to yourself that you're an accomplished author as well. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I am also the author and illustrator of Bipolar Blob. And Bipolar Blob became a thing when I discovered, so once I was diagnosed, I was trying to find picture books that were bipolar related, like child friendly for my daughter. And there wasn't an awful lot out there, at least not written or made by someone that has bipolar. So I wanted to create something in more simple terms, which I did, hence Bipolar Blob, the name, etc. And I was quite lucky in the fact that it got picked up by my publishers very quickly. So they're Sweet Cherry Publishing. But I didn't think of myself as an author. I thought of myself originally as I do pictures. So when they turned around and said, yeah, you need to write the story too because it's your story. Now looking back, I couldn't imagine anybody else writing it. And I really like the writing process as well. I find it quite therapeutic because I journal a lot myself too. So
Fantastic. So the book is a story as well as illustrations within that. So it's again fitting in with the theme of creativity and playfulness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's I've done a variety of different projects, and I think that's one good thing about a creative career, I suppose. It's not just one, you don't have to do just one thing, and it's showing all the different things that you can do with it as well.
And I think an important message that is coming out of what you're saying, Jodie, and that is showcasing creativity being the vehicle for therapy, or being, as you said, you find journaling therapeutic. And your Happy Doodles is an entity that I'm sure helps bring about some of that therapy value through the creative arts, I think. So
definitely.
So that's an important message that is coming out of what you're saying. And
it's seeing the joy as well on like the children's faces. I think that is the motivation that makes me realise as well this is really important. Yeah.
My next couple of questions, you may have already answered those, but I'm still going to ask them, see if there's anything that you want to add there or something else that might have jogged your memory. So a challenge that you've coped with, or a sacrifice that you've undergone, and because again we want to create a platform or a place where we're able to share some of that vulnerability and give other people inspiration that challenges can be overcome. So do you have an example there? I think you've mentioned about your hospital admission.
Quite a few, yeah. I've being in a mental health unit in its own self, like that is kind of a rock bottom, I felt like, but also it was accepting the support. I think that's really important. I used to, at the time, because I had postpartum psychosis, which was why I was in there, but I didn't know I had bipolar. I'd had a few episodes of psychosis before that too. So in my career, I've had sort of a roller coaster of the book, and before that designing for like Clintons and greeting cards, but then also hitting the point of I don't have a job and I have no money, and so I sort of sometimes look back and I think from graduating 8 years ago and the amount of struggles that I've had with mental illness and adversity and even the single motherhood and being classed as homeless and then having to sort of rebuild my life. I've had a lot of difficulties, but I think the one thing that has I suppose is resilience, like I said before.
Yeah.
And the one constant thing that was there throughout all of that, I suppose, was creativity. That was my thing that got me out of a rut. That was
Superpower.
my superpower, I guess. Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's fantastic. Yeah. And the question that follows on from that, again, you've touched on a few moments of pride, but what has been a moment of pride for you, a small win or a big win that you want to share with us as a way of motivating, inspiring?
I've got a couple. I suppose one moment of pride was my book being published and seeing it in a bookshop and taking my daughter to see it and for her to be sat on the sofa reading it and looking at her and be like, this is why I did this. It was for you originally. That was a really big proud moment.
How old was Edith at the time when you took her to the...
She was only 2.5. So at the time, really, it was still quite... she still had a few years to understand it, but it was nice.
But definitely a moment of pride, of course.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true. And then I think we'd like to focus a little bit on authenticity because, as you know, with neurodivergence, there's a lot of conformity and trying to fit in. What is the authentic version of Jodie Smith?
She's a little bit weird, a little bit quirky. I've got a Stay Weird tattoo on my arm, and I think that's a little nod to, my staying weird. I think if I wasn't the neurodivergent Jodie, I wouldn't be me. And I think that's what gives me my superpowers as well. Like, I don't know if I answered that or not properly.
There's no right and wrong. I mean, and I think what you've mentioned is very motivating as well because it shows that you've got the courage now, or you've developed the courage to be yourself, and to acknowledge that in your words, you're saying weird, being or staying weird, but that is your superpower. I think that aligns well with what you said earlier about creativity and playfulness. So, that's helpful. And if we can extend a message that you'd like to give to our audience about what's your formula for living authentically, what's helped you live authentically that you would like to tell? Because it's not easy when you have a lot of pressure to conform and to be a certain type or fit in certain stereotypes. So what has been your formula that you feel can be, our audience can learn from?
I guess I found my own formula through journaling, and even the past year, that really helped me. So I would write down what I love to do and what I've done before. So like my why, that came from there. My life experiences, work experiences, and sort of finding what the world needs more of. And I think that's what sort of was the seed, like I've said already, with Happy Doodles, and also what makes it very sort of authentic and makes me enjoy my job. And I think it can be quite difficult to feel like you have to conform for financial reasons or family reasons or all different reasons to stick with a job that you don't love, or there's so much that we have to conform to in day-to-day lives. But even, I think that would be a good recipe for others maybe.
That's very powerful. It's very powerful, yeah. And I think, it's... talked about quite a bit, but hearing it from you and how it's helped you become authentic, I think it just adds a new dimension to this. So thank you for mentioning that. So there is a question that I have that gets you to think on your feet a little bit. So I have a daughter, Nawal. She's 17, going to be 18 soon. And she has neurodivergence. I think she has autism. She was nonverbal for many years. She's beginning to speak. And she has difficulty with handling crying noises, high-pitched noises, which can send her into a meltdown. And as a family, I think we found that we found it easier to manage this in other situations. But when we have to travel, it can be real challenging. And the question for you is, what policy proposals, if any, that you would like to maybe suggest or give to help someone like Nawal, or someone like Nawal navigate the crowded, the noisy environments of the airport or the airplanes? Yeah.
Yeah, so policy-wise, I wouldn't be sure how to word it, but I have recently seen that there's already going to be some changes. I don't know whether it'll come into force in airports or busy places, but there's a company that's just created what are they? So hand dryers. That I know that can be a trigger for noise as well. I mean, there's so many other noises, but for public hygiene, hand dryers, that's a big one, and it can put some people off from even
going
using.
Going to the restrooms. Yeah.
And so what it would be good to have known the name of them, but they've created a soundless dryer, and it also spins, and it's got the like a towel option behind it. So having the options, it's just thinking about the essentials and what other people might not have even thought about. I guess even the simple stuff.
Yeah, helpful suggestions, helpful ideas. Yeah.
So I'm not sure it's a policy, but I think that stuff like that could definitely be
absolutely
improved.
I think policy is a jargon for solution, if you like.
Solution,
or suggestion. Yeah. Maybe I should use the word suggestion rather than policy, but no, that's helpful suggestion. So I think it's been lovely talking to you and getting to know you, Jodie. I think very inspiring story, and I'm very much impressed by your authenticity around creativity and playfulness, and your resilience, journaling. So there are many messages that I'm taking, I'm sure our audience will take away. Is there anything that you want to just give us as a final message before we come to the end of the episode? Highlight one thing that you've said already that you feel should stay with our audience.
I suppose, I guess finding your why. I think that's really important.
It's a good one, yeah.
'Cause that will keep you going despite many different knockbacks and challenges. Find your why.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's ending on a high. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
You're welcome,
great experience.
You're welcome.
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah, same here. And for the audience, if they wanted to be in touch with you for Happy Doodles, or if they want to buy your book, where would you want to send people to? Do we put something in the comments box?
I can do that. And I'm Happy Doodles UK on Instagram, and Bipolar Blob. If you just Google it, it's on like Waterstones and Amazon and all different places. But I'm happy for people to reach out to.
Fantastic. Thank you once again, Jodie.
You.
Thank you. Yeah.